Welcome to Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. I'm your host, Melissa Banks, and this is the Woman Who Shines series. This is where we celebrate women who are walking in their purpose, breaking barriers, and lighting the way for others. Each woman featured here has a story that reminds us of the power of faith, resilience, and determination. Today, we're shining the spotlight on Dr. Anissa Short. Dr. Anissa Short is an international best-selling author, speaker, entrepreneur, and a woman whose journey is not only inspiring, but also a beautiful reminder that when women shine, we give others permission to shine also. Welcome to the show, Dr. Anissa Short. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your light with us.
Thanks, Melissa, for the opportunity once again to hang out in this space with you. I'm excited about today's conversation.
I am too. I can't wait to just dive in so we can get to know Dr. Anissa Short. I'm excited to talk to you today. Now, in this conversation, I'd like to start at the beginning of the journey. Share with us a moment, or maybe there was a story or a triumph or a struggle that happened that turned your life. It was that turning point for you that started this journey and helped you shape the life that you have today.
I remember vividly, I guess I could go back to graduate school. At the time in which I was finishing up, the assistant dean called myself and 3 other students into his office. He had just accepted a position at a university in the state of Louisiana, and he offered us, the 4 of us, 2 women, me and another lady and the 2 guys, an opportunity to follow him, to be a part of his staff at this department at this university, to get our doctoral degrees, and to be a part of his staff. And as a result of being a part of the staff, our tuition would be covered. Well, the others had jobs. The young lady was getting married. I had no plan, Melissa, but I said I was going home. And so I respectfully declined the opportunity, and it threw him for a loop. He could not believe I said no, thank you, to a free opportunity to go to school, for a job, offer, things of that nature. I went home. 8 months later, I started working with the government. And Dr. Brown, probably 2 or 3 years after that, found me and heard that I was working with the government and called and said, "Why are you working with the government?" And I said, "Well, great benefits and good pay," And he said to me, "That is not where you're supposed to be." And it took me by a surprise for him to say that. Not that, I didn't take it as an insult, but that's what he was concerned about, my choice of choosing to do that rather than something else. And so I said, "Well, what will you propose that I do, Dr. Brown, if I'm doing this?" And he says, "Well, I'm leaving now. The school I've been, I'm going to Georgia," because he got another promotion. And he said, "And the opportunity that I extended to you several years ago while you were at the University of Mississippi, I'm extending to you again. You need to leave that job and go back to school, get your doctorate degree, and the same offer." Well, I said no, thank you again, because at this point in time, I don't know where my head was, but anyway, I said no, thank you, because I had moved away from home. I was working. I was, had a great salary from where I live. And I think I may have started dating my husband, or he and I may have just gotten married, or getting ready to get married. Anywho, fast forward probably 10 years. I'm living in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm still working with the government. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I have missed my call because I hate this job. I had become very disgruntled with it before. And I can remember Dr. Brown telling me one day I would regret the decision I made by declining his offer. He says, "And when you do, call me, because if I'm still, the offer still stands." Well, I didn't call him, but nevertheless, he was absolutely right, Melissa. I had taken a job for the convenience of the pay and the benefits, but I was out of my wheelhouse. I was totally miserable doing what I did. I was happily dissatisfied. That's the term I used. I was thankful for the job. I was grateful to be gainfully employed, but I was totally miserable. And it was at that point in time I said to myself, I have got to find, God guide me. What am I supposed to be doing? What else is there out there that I could, latch onto that will give me some respite from what I'm doing now? And I found out that entrepreneurship was the key.
Oh, wow. All of that. That is so amazing. You said something I've never heard anybody say before. but perfectly understand where you were. And you said happily dissatisfied.
Happily
And I have
dissatisfied.
never heard that term before. I wrote it down so that I can remember it because that so describes so many of us that makes the safe decision.
Yes,
That was a safe decision for you,
it
and you
was.
recognize that.
It
But look
was.
what happened. It turned into entrepreneurship,
It
which
did.
is a whole nother journey for you. So that's, oh, thank you for sharing that right out the gate, Anissa. Okay, Anissa, let's talk about a woman who shines. You know, how does that resonate with you? I was asked this question earlier on an interview that I was doing. How did I feel to be doing this series? And to tell you the truth, it excites me. Every time I say those words, I feel giggly inside. I want to smile big. I just really love talking to the women and hearing their journey, powerful journeys, and I just get excited about it. But how does it resonate from where you are, being one of the women we're spotlighting, being one of the women that we're letting your light shine? How does it feel to step into your own light and let your light shine?
When I think about the phrase, when I think about a person, a woman's particularly, but a person shining and shining brightly, I consider it to be someone who is very assured of themselves. Okay, their confidence level is high. They are um, doing what they love. They're making a difference. They are transparent and authentic in the way in which they live and engage with others. I truly believe a person that shines, it falls in all of those categories, if not just one, but all of them. Because when we are truly confident in who we know who we are willing to be transparent and authentic because we understand the value of our voice, then how could you not shine? How could you not shine? And so that's how I would answer that question. I really would.
Well, thank you for that. That means a lot. So, Anissa, let's change it up a little bit. So, on our journeys, we both have been on this entrepreneur journey a long time. So we know that success does not come without challenges. So
Right.
even though we let our light shine, there are moments where it just doesn't feel good. So share with us a moment where you felt tested, or maybe you doubted yourself that you were in the right place, and what gave you the strength to rise above it and keep shining.
Okay, so when I left that great government job, Melissa, um, when I finally made the decision, due to a series of situations in my life, a decision, and I'm thankful to have had a very supportive husband, because while I wanted to leave and contemplated leaving, my prayer was, God, either fix circumstances where it's more tolerable. That was my prayer. And so through a series of circumstances, my husband came and said, why don't you quit? And I thought, that's the answer prayer. So anyway, after going back and forth, I did eventually resign. And maybe within that first 90 days of resigning, and really particularly after the first 3 or 4 days, I realized I was not supposed to be June Cleaver. So a housewife was not my call. I began to not necessarily doubt the decision to leave, but find myself in a dark hole like, what am I to do? I was a part of a direct sales company that I loved the environment of that direct sales company. And I considered myself as, doing pretty good in that direct sales company, which was an entrepreneurial venture. But part of me was still questioning whether or not this was the answer. I knew entrepreneurship was it. So I found myself in a hole, really like in a functionally depressed state. I was up, I was moving, I was doing the things I needed to do, but I still was unsure of the direction I was to go. And so I just had to pray about it, Melissa. I really did. And the answer I got was I was doing what I was supposed to do at that time, and that opportunity, just stick it out, because there were skills that I needed to hone up on. There were doors that were going to open through that vehicle, and I was being afforded an opportunity to be a better version of myself through that leadership capacity with that company, but also to take advantage of other opportunities. And that's, Melissa, when because I followed through, a third opportunity came about for me to get my doctoral degree at no charge, but it wasn't Dr. Brown. It was
Oh,
through someone else.
look how God works, folks. Look how God works.
He really did, because I apologize for being mule headed. I'm like, how did I not see that as a gift? You know what I'm saying? So I was like repentant that I didn't take advantage of the opportunity. And I said, if the opportunity presented itself again, I would move forward. And sure enough, it did. I got the opportunity probably 2 years after I left my job. And in 2012, I graduated with my doctoral degree. And I was able to, with that, it led to something else. So entrepreneurship is not a straight arrow. It's not a straight line. There's going to be a lot of this involved, but I would say if you stay focused and you stay committed to the task at hand, what happens is that it leads to, it's like a breadcrumb. One thing leads to something else until eventually, I believe, you find exactly what you're supposed to do.
Oh, I do too. I absolutely 100% agree with that. Also, I was listening to you talk. Each thing had a meaning in that moment, and you had to get to that moment to get the meaning, to get to the next thing.
Exactly.
And that's what happens, I believe, to people who make quitting an option. They quit before they get to the thing.
Right.
Their breakthrough.
It's like a scavenger hunt. It's like you go to one clue and you go to one destination, and then there's a clue, and that clue takes you to the next destination. But if you quit before you get to the next place, you'll never know ultimately where the pot of gold is or whatever your true purpose is. I believe that, each destination prepares you for the next. And so I look in retrospect, I can see where all of the working with the government and the things I did with that, even my role in the direct sales company, all and working, through the nonprofit I did as I was, was serving on the boards I served on when I was working on my doctoral degree. I see how all of that prepared me for what I'm doing today.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Anissa. I need to reset right here. So if you're just joining us, this is Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. I'm your host, Melissa Banks, and our guest today is Dr. Anissa Short. Okay, Dr. Short, as women, sometimes we downplay our wins. We don't celebrate them big. We may tell somebody, or we may make one post, and then we move to the next thing. Yeah. So on this show, though, we want to celebrate a win with you. So tell us the story. Remember a moment that you felt proud of an achievement, that you smiled and then you were excited. And when you think about that achievement, you get all excited all over again, because we want to celebrate that moment with you.
Wow. I must admit, I'm one of those people who downplay wins. I'm the biggest cheerleader. I'll pull out my pom-poms for everyone else. But then when I accomplish something, I'm like, yeah, I got it done. And everybody's like, what? You did what? And I'm going like, yeah, it was cool, that kind of thing. But in thinking about what you've asked, I would have to say, not saying no the third time to an opportunity to get this degree, right? It didn't come as I thought it would, but when the opportunity was presented, I realized, oh my God, this is another chance to do what I needed to do. And so I didn't say no. I moved full force and took advantage of it. And then the sense of accomplishment that came about as a result, it was like I could say, I don't know where Dr. Brown to this day, but at the time in which I graduated, I was like, I wish I could call him and say, that what you extended to me never came to pass, but it came through another vehicle, So I was proud of that. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, Melissa. Even after receiving the degree and earning it, I was a little reserved about putting doctor in front of my name. A lot of time, Now people get honorary doctorates and they put it in front of their name in a minute, and that's not to take away from the fact that they earned it in some capacity. But I knew I did the work, and it was a woman who I met after I moved from Mississippi to North Carolina, asked me directly, a more mature woman, and she says, and I told her, she says, why don't you use the title? And I said, well, I don't know. And she says, you need to start doing it from now on, because you did the work and you earned it, and you should be proud of that. And God blessed you with the opportunity based on the story you told. And so she was really kind of the person to flip my switch or push my buttons to help me to see that what I've accomplished is noteworthy, and to not celebrate what you accomplished, especially when God made it happen, is really could be looked at as not being as appreciative as you should, So that was one of the biggest moments. That was a big moment. That was a big milestone, especially after I said no twice before, right?
Yeah. Well, we are clapping and we're applauding. Take a bow, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank and women all over the world is applauding with you that accomplishment. God had to kind of work with you though to get you there, but you got it.
Yeah. I think a lot of times women deal with a lot of false humility. In certain circles, we'll talk about not tooting our own horn. And I get that because you want other people to applaud you. But there comes a time when you are tooting your own horn, and not just to say, see me, look what I've done, but to really show that this is what I've done and you can do it too. And especially when God made it happen for you, it's really a testament to his grace and mercy and his favor. It really
is. Absolutely. I definitely agree with you on that. So talk to us about, Anissa, on the days that your dream feel a little heavy. It's not always exciting. Sometimes the dream is heavy, So how do you handle those days when the dream is heavy? Maybe the world noise is loud. How do you stay grounded and focused and continue to let your light shine?
I have to take a nap and pray.
That's it.
And sometimes it's pray and take a nap, and I may reverse the order, but either way, I have to have that conversation, the quiet time with God. I talk to my husband a lot as well, but when I made reference earlier about being in like a dark place, when I wondered where I was to go, it took me sitting and being still and praying and meditating and asking God, what am I supposed to be doing? I don't see the next step. I don't know what I'm, what am I to be looking for? I'm going to need your help. And so for me, Melissa, everyone else has what they do, but for me, it's praying. I have to pray because ultimately I know God is on my side. And so he's not going to steer me wrong. And so I have to sit still. And sometimes I need a nap because, when you become emotionally overwhelmed or just feel heavy, sometimes a nap does a body good, right? But those are the two things I would tell anyone. Take a nap and pray.
That's it. Basically, what she's saying, folks, is get still and pray, then start again. So thank you for that. Okay, Anissa, there are women that's going to hear this powerful journey. This has been an amazing conversation, and it's going to help so many people. But there are women watching you right now who have a big dream, but they're just stuck and afraid. What would you say to her to remind her that she has everything she needs inside of her to step out and shine?
I would recommend, or I would say that whatever gifts, skills, and talents that you've developed thus far are transferable. So if you're beginning to doubt whether or not this next move is something you can do, the answer to that question is yes, because you have very likely already been equipped to do it. The skills are transferable. It may be a different vehicle, it may be a different industry, but whatever it is that you are gifted to do, either if you're inclined to do it naturally or you were professionally trained through previous opportunities or school, just know that you can tap into those skills and they'll never let you down. So don't doubt. It may be intimidating. It may be a new industry. It may be a new block. It may be a new city. But if you have been equipped, which I'm pretty sure you have, you've got everything within you to do what's necessary to take it to the next level.
Thank you for that. This has been such an amazing conversation. And my final question is, when people look back at your life and your journey, how do you want them to feel or to remember and to be inspired to do because of your example?
Oh, wow. Well, I want them to know or believe and testify to the fact that I was authentic and transparent. No matter which circle, no matter which role in which I've served, I have been Anissa consistently. That I was one that chose to make a difference and be a difference. I always want people to feel that they are important, that they are not less than, and that they are loved and they are valued. That's what I want people to understand about who I am, and maybe a little bit about the impact I've made, whether it be through the books I've written, the work I've done, the events I've hosted. That's what I want them to take away from, that I made sure that they were seen and that they knew that they mattered.
Oh, wow. I love that. Thank you, Anissa. This has been an amazing conversation. Let our audience know how they can stay connected, support what you're doing, and what's next for you.
Well, I think the best way to contact me or stay connected with me is through social media. They can go to Facebook and or LinkedIn, and they can find me at Dr. Anissa Short.
Oh, wow. That was wonderful. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for sharing your light with us. And thank you to our audience for joining us for today's episode of Dream by Design with Melissa Banks, the Woman Who Shines series. Our guest today was Anissa Short. Thank you again, Anissa, for
You're very
opening your
welcome.
heart and sharing your incredible journey with us today. Your story is a reminder that no matter where we start, we have the ability to rise, to dream, and to shine. To everyone watching, I'm your host, Melissa Banks, and I hope you feel encouraged and inspired to keep pushing forward toward your purpose. Remember, your light is needed, your voice matters, and your shine is powerful. Until next time, keep shining.